Welcome back, Patriots, for another episode of The Bald Brad Show, where we cover all the major news headlines that you need to know about before jumping into your morning, your day, future podcast, evening podcast. We bring you all the news right here. Appreciate you joining me. Now, yesterday, we did a lot of talking on my end, and we didn't go over a lot of news. That ain't happening today. I made sure that I queued up a ton of videos for all of you guys to see what Donald Trump was saying during his cabinet meeting, what his cabinet members were saying. We had Caroline Leavitt do a White House press briefing for new media, which are clearly focusing on influencers. We have all sorts of goodies for you. We got China canceling, I guess, pork or meat to the United States. Buckle up, because this one's going to be a good one. Appreciate you guys joining me each and every morning. It's like we're a family of patriots. Well, here we go, folks. The first one I want to talk about is how investments are surging, but GDP slips. We have this right here. The GDP shrank by 0.3% in the first quarter of 2025, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped 200 points in response to that news. Now, I'll see if it gets brought up. I can't remember if I have this specific video queued up. There was a reporter that asked a good question, and I think it's a fair question to ask Donald Trump during his cabinet meeting. Hey, if you're going to take credit for when the economy's doing good, are you going to take credit for when the economy's doing bad? It was specifically in reference to the stock market. Now, I wouldn't say the stock market's doing terrible. It's plateaued, and that's not always a great indicator if the economy's doing worse, if the economy's doing better. A lot of people think it does, but GDP is also another great metric to determine how things are going. So clearly, we're not producing as much as we were before, but the hope is that things do go up. Now, the reason why I bring that up is because we really hounded Joe Biden for changing the definition of recession, which I believe is 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth. Well, this could lead into a actual definitional recession if we have 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth in the future. Like, this is where it could be heading. Just trying to make you aware of what the narrative, the talking points are going to be from the mainstream media, because we always know they love how to spin things. They love how to make things, prevalent in the spotlight with Donald Trump, but they didn't want to do it with Joe Biden. They're willing to go with different narratives. They're willing to change the language, change definitions for him. But when it comes to Trump, no, everything's crystal clear. It's how it's supposed to be. Furthermore, it says industrial average dropped about 200 points in response to that news. But if we dig deep into these numbers, the data is kind of mixed here, because there are actually some significant positives with all of this. Trump and other administration officials challenged the media's narrative about the economy, arguing that they are turning Biden's economy around and that core GDP is on the rise. And I think they're saying that because they're trying to bring manufacturing back here. When you bring manufacturing back here, guess what happens? You produce more stuff domestically, which would increase GDP. Quote, I was very against everything Biden was doing in terms of the economy, Trump said, but we took over his mess in so many different ways. Despite what we were handed, we turned them around. White House trade advisor Pete Navarro broke down the administration's crunched the numbers. He said that a surge in imports and DOGE slashing government waste made the GDP look much lower on paper. The markets need to look below the surface of that, Navarro said. We had 22% increase in domestic investments. That is off the chart. That is true with the investments. And the hope is with, you have these Apple and some of these auto manufacturers bringing investments back here in the United States. You even have foreign countries, producing, still a little under the weather, producing here and wanting to build factories. So with that being said, the hope is that these investments, these domestic investments, actually turn into producing products, which would in turn obviously increase GDP. So we got to, again, I'm willing to wait for a bit. I'm willing to wait actually over a year to see how things progress. Now, that's a long time, but I've also realized his plan and what he's trying to do and where he's trying to take America. And so when I see that vision, I have to give that vision time, because I understand that vision takes time to actually do. So where like Joey didn't have a vision Joey wasn't awake. Joey never answered a freaking question to any of us. I mean, Karine Jean-Pierre didn't, Jen Psaki didn't. So it was always, well, we're in a transition phase. I understand that, but what are you trying to get to? Like, are you trying to bring manufacturing back here? Or are you trying to drill, baby, drill, which we'll get to in one moment? I knew that they weren't going to do those things because he said on his campaign trail, I'm talking about Joe Biden right now, that he didn't want to drill. He wanted to get rid of the fossil fuel industry. Well, I'm not behind that. And if that's what you're going to do, that's going to hurt things because everything's ran on fossil fuels still. But, you know, typical Democrats, these libs, these snowflakes live in some alternate universe and it's fictitious land. So we got that there. I also want to talk about inflation slowed to its lowest rate since September and consumer spending increased by 135 billion or 0.7%. Much of that was America's buying cars and other big ticket items, partly to get ahead of Trump's tariffs. And I think that's a very great point that they threw in this article here, trying to get ahead of those tariffs. And even with the electronics, I know people were buying cell phones quite a bit. Their outdated phone because they weren't sure if those tariffs were going to go into effect for that as well. Now, you also have the Trump administration here going to drill, baby, drill. This is a big part of Donald Trump's plan, was not only cut the spending, but also get that energy, drill, baby, drill, get that oil out of the earth, get it out of the earth and into your car. But all jokes aside, you need to get the cost of freight, the cost of shipping down so that that goes into your electricity bill, that goes into the freight. So as things get more expensive to produce, because you're going to be building here in America, you can offset that by having a little bit more cheaper transportation. It also alleviates a lot of Americans by not having to pay a ton at the gas pump. I live in the state of California. We're still paying about $5 a gallon here. And that's also expected to go up with some more tax that the freaking governor and these leftist psychos want to impose upon us. Yeah, you heard that correctly. We almost pay $1 in tax for our gas, by the way. It's like 50, 60 cents per gallon or some stupid thing. I don't know. I can't remember. I'll take a picture of it next time I was at the gas station. I almost fell over yesterday filling up my car. Fell over in the sense of me seeing the prices. It's ridiculous. It says the Department of Interior oversees billions of acres of federal lands and waters and has the power to open up new land for mining and drilling operations, which needs to happen. I'm so tired of hearing the EPA come in and shoot ourselves in the foot. And as we talked about yesterday, I'm not going to rehash it out. You guys were willing to give me some time yesterday to rant and rave about the crap that's going on with us not drilling and not being able to build our own stuff and how we have to rely on all our adversaries for these minerals. And well, if we just drilled here, if we just mined here, we could build a lot of it ourselves. I'm not saying we even have all the precious metals here, but it sure and hell helps. This month, when China announced a ban on export of several rare earth minerals, Doug Burgum, the Interior Secretary, announced that he would reverse Joe Biden's so-called war on mining to ensure the United States could begin producing those minerals on its own. I always find it interesting when I hear Democrats get on these influencers, or sometimes influencers, just idiots, getting online and saying a bunch of stuff about Donald Trump's plans. But yet this is the party that wanted to get rid of fracking. They wanted to get rid, I'm talking about the Democrats wanted to get rid of fossil fuel. Folks, it was the Democrats that wanted to put forth the Green New Deal and revamp every single building in the United States. They wanted to get rid of airplanes and boats and trains. These people are idiots. I'm telling you, they I know you know this. They live in fictitious land. They think people could shapeshift. They're not with us. When they put in the electric vehicle mandate, that mandated you to buy electric vehicle in some cases, depending on what state you're in and how things worked out. This was years ago. This had to be like 3 years ago. The mining firms, the companies that actually mined the cobalt, the nickel, like the metals that go into these vehicles, they came out and said, it is in statistics, when we say impossible, like 0%, that means impossible. It's not one of those loosely words we just throw out there. Like, well, it's impossible. Even though it could actually happen, that's not what we do in statistics. In statistics, when we say impossible, that means there's no realm that will ever happen. It will never exist. The guy said it's impossible to mine the amount of minerals and precious metals and precious elements that you would need to meet the demand that the Biden administration, the Democrats want. You actually can't mine it. And by the way, there's not enough miners, there's not enough companies. It's impossible. So they put forward mandates under Joe Biden that were actually impossible to even implement and to obtain because they're idiots. And what else would you call it? What else would you call a person? Because some people might not, well, I don't think that's fair, Brad. You're calling a lot of people idiots now. I don't know if that's kind of cool. Well, then you let me know, what should I call them when you implement and force, by the way, it's a mandate. When you force people to get something in the future that's impossible to get. I think that's idiotic. And I think that's a great word. I think that's a nice word. I think that's nice. I think that's really nice. Obama, Biden, you know, with a whole approach, we're going to shut down mining. We're going to shut down oil gas development, Burgum told the Daily Wire. They really, I'm going to say, crushed the mining industry, both the extraction of these resources, but also processing of that. China was happy to the rest of the Western world stop mining so they could take control of the markets around these critical minerals, which we need for defense, for technology, for electronics, really for everything today in modern life depends on it. So now in the United States, we got to get back into the game. Do you understand why I said I don't think Donald Trump can do this all in 4 years? It takes decades to get back to where we are. I mean, folks, I'm going to be an old man if we can get back to the production that we did in the past. Mining stuff, seeing the oil drills that used to, you know, the rigs that used to look like the horses, used to be everywhere in California where I'm at. Everywhere you would see them. You would see them in your next door neighbor's backyard. We were drilling everywhere. Not anymore. And I'm not, by the way, I'm as serious as a heart attack when I say you used to see drilling rigs in people's backyards. I am as serious as a heart attack in California. That's how much we used to drill in California. California looks like my shirt right now. By the way, that's paint if you're curious. It's paint. It's not dandruff, I promise. But we drilled that much, and you're seeing how far we've gone. Where, yeah, some of you are using different words. Yeah, my words was very nice compared to yours. I'm a nice guy. Well, let's go on to this, where Trump war hits U.S. farmers right here. And I guess it's going to be hitting the pork and the piggies. President Trump continues to tout his trade policies as China makes quiet concessions, but also cancels significant U.S. agricultural orders. So a report from Reuters published Wednesday says China has created a list of U.S.-made products that will be exempt from its retaliatory 125% tariffs. So some are saying that this is either them caving, or this is part of the negotiations that are going behind the scenes that Donald Trump's maybe been talking about, where China wants to make a deal, but they don't want to embarrass themselves. China is very old school, kind of like what we see in the Disney movies, almost with Mulan. It's very image based, very much, I don't want to say demand respect, but they don't want to be looked down on. They don't want to be shamed. They don't want to look weak. And so when you're going basically against two alphas, right, Trump and Xi, I think there's going to be a lot of quiet movement taking place because both guys don't want to cave. Both guys don't want to bend the knee. But at the same time, they understand they need to do best what's for their people. And so it's going to be interesting. And this is kind of how I would expect it to play out. Not that it is. I'm literally speculating. But I think you understand what I mean with that analogy. The two alphas don't want to exactly, make themselves look weak. So behind the scenes, Beijing is apparently privately notifying companies about the latest exemptions. That's obviously to preserve the posture that China will fight Trump on tariffs to the end. Very similar to what you'll probably see from Canada as well with Carney. Trump has said he is in trade talks with China and that Xi recently called him. China has denied it and publicly putting on a bold face. And that's what they do. And that doesn't surprise me. Now, did China actually call Trump? I don't know. But China's not saying that Trump called them. But they can't, right? Because they're saying that, well, we're not talking to anybody. We're not talking to the Americans. Well, so they can't go that route, I suppose. I mean, they could, but they're not, at least from what I'm aware of. Bowing to a bully is like drinking poison to quench thirst. It only deepens the crisis, a widely disseminated Chinese propaganda video said earlier this week. Make no mistake, the U.S. will keep flip-flopping and playing hardball, but China will stand firm no matter how hard the wind blows, no matter how clouds rage. It's always interesting when I hear the rhetoric from the Chinese that, oh, well, we've been around for 5,000 years or something like that. Yeah, you also had one of the greatest murderers all time called Mao. And by the way, not all that long ago. I mean, Mao was around in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, folks. I mean, he was even there a little bit longer after. But the Great Leap Forward really killed millions of people. So this whole idea that oh, well, we'll keep going. They will. And they will kill their own people to do it. Just a heads up. That's how insane some of these people in China are. They are willing to kill and starve their own people for the advancement, that in air quotes for those on audio, advancement of their people. Remember you had the Cultural Revolution take place in China, not in your life, and well, not in my lifetime, but some in your lifetimes. You had the Great Leap Forward, which completely decimated. People were stealing food, making false numbers to Mao Zedong to say that they were producing something when in actuality they weren't. They were taking the nails out of floorboards and houses just to get to the metal. They were smelting like average common day utensils, like spoons. They didn't really have spoons as much as, they use different type of utensils like chopsticks. But the point I'm trying to make is they would smelt their frying pans, their kitchen utensils just to get metal for the things that they were building. And they would just steal it from people. They would just steal all the stuff from the Chinese civilians. It's just completely terrible, really terrible. Well, let's get into a little bit of the cabinet meeting yesterday. I'm going to kind of be picky and choosy. It was a long meeting. So I want to go through this and see if we can find some highlights here for all of you. And trust me, there is some highlights. So Trump is saying we just completed what many consider to be the most successful 100 days of administration in history. This is very much a Trumpy talking point here.
Many consider to be the most successful first 100 days of any administration in the history of our country, and we're just getting started. Things are happening that are amazing, and I would not say it if it days of any administration. In a few short weeks, we've achieved the most secure border in American history by far, 99.9%, which is a number that nobody thought was doable. Biden thought you had to go back to the legislature to get legislation passed in order to create a secure border. You didn't. You just had to have the right president and the right people working it. Congratulations, by the way, and to Tom. For 2 months in a row, we have set the all-time records for the lowest number of illegal border crossings ever recorded. The number of illegal border crossers released into the United States is down 99.999%. That is usually 100%. So I think it's an amazing tribute, and Christy, congratulations, and Tom and everybody else. It's an amazing job, actually, and it was done very quickly. We officially designated Tren de Aragua, MS-13, and the Mexican drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, and we're expelling these monsters from our country rapidly and working with the Department of Justice. Pam, you're doing fantastic. Your people are amazing. We're having some judge problems that everybody's reading. We're having some judges that don't like, killers, murderers being thrown out of the country. So I don't know what their problem is, but we have little difficulty. We won on the basis of a great border and of getting criminals out of our country. That was why we won every swing state. We won by millions of votes. We won everything, every metric. We won by a lot.
And he is right on all those points. And the media was there with him. And so you have Commerce Secretary Lutnick talking about the investment of $165 billion in 11,000 acres in Arizona to build tech chips, which is huge, by the way. This is something that needs to happen.
So they're investing $165 billion in 1,100 acres in Arizona, and they're building the highest tech chip manufacturing, semiconductors, and 4,000 employees. American tradecraft, right? Technicians doing every kind of work. The classic foundation of America is building it. They had 14,000 people. They're expecting 40,000 people to build the rest of their plants and to employ 20,000 people for the rest of the time. This is all driven.
You never saw a site like that.
And this is all driven by your tariff policies. No chance this be happening without you. So
that's huge. If that is true, that is exactly what we want to happen. What Lutnick said, that's exactly what we want to happen. I want to be clear because he said it kind of quickly and it seemed like he might have, I don't know if he misspoke, but he talked about the 11,000 acres and that's going to be manufacturing semiconductors, which is what we need. That's what we rely on Taiwan for. That's what we've been relying on China for. We need to stop relying on them for those things. They're expecting 40,000 people to build the rest of their plants, and then they're going to employ 20,000 people for the rest of time to work those plants. That's big. And by the way, that's producing something. When you produce something, that helps with our GDP. Now, this was also brought up, the GDP, right here with Trump. And this was also highlighted in what I was talking about earlier in our previous segment.
And this is, you probably saw some numbers today. And I have to start off by saying that's Biden. That's not Trump, because we came in on January, this is quarterly numbers. And we came in and I was very against everything that Biden was doing in terms of the economy, destroying our country in so many ways. Not only at the border was more obvious, but we took over his mess in so many different ways. Core GDP, removing distortions from imports, inventories, and government spending, was up plus 3% when you add it. We had numbers that, despite what we were handed, we turned them around, and we were getting them really turned around. Gross domestic investment was a whopping 22%. Now, that is a number that people are coming in at numbers. For instance, I just walked in, I heard Samsung is now, because of the tariffs, they're going to build massive facilities in the United States. If we didn't do the tariffs, they wouldn't be doing that. So it takes a little while to get those facilities built, but they're coming in with big numbers. They're all coming in with big numbers. We have more money being spent than at any time in the history of our country. We're up to close to $8 trillion, I think I can say. And really, it's going to be a lot higher than that. Those are just the ones that we know about. 8 trillion. I'm not going to say, but I'm not sure if Biden did $1 trillion for 4 years, 1 trillion. But we're at 8 trillion for 2 months, because let's give us a pass on the first month.
So he's cooking, he's moving, and a lot of manufacturing and technology is being driven here. Lutnick was also echoing this once again, where technology companies have committed $2.5 trillion to the United States here. Check this out.
The investment accelerator, which gets to recruit these companies. And you've never seen anything like the companies committed to building in America. Technology companies have committed over $2.5 trillion to build in America based on your tariffs, right? Sovereign countries all backing, the whole Middle East and all these countries backing their sovereign wealth funds. They all want to invest in America, and they're coming in, again, over $3 trillion committed. So just those two topics, you're at $5.5 trillion, and then you've got the whole pharma industry knows it's got to come home, because America pays for all the drugs of the world. So the pharmaceuticals have to come home, right? Auto's coming home, industrial's coming home. So, we've got to train, and your great Secretary of Labor together and Secretary of Education together, we're going to train the workforce to build America. It's unbelievable. We've got so much, as I travel around, the attention on the Trump Gold Card. I mean, it makes me very popular. Last night, I was out to dinner, and someone came up and said, can I buy 10? And how do I buy 10? And I'm like, that's pretty good. It's $50 million for dinner. So, I was paying for my dinner. The External Revenue Service, right? You've got the tariffs and the hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars coming in to build the External Revenue Service. That our objective, of course, is to replace the Internal Revenue Service and let those outside countries trading with us, let them pay their fair share to America. And then, of course, you got rid of de minimis. And what happened is these foreign countries were sending in little packages for free and knocking out our mom and pop businesses across America. You put an end to it, and you're going to rebuild the mom and pop and the small business of America. You're their president, and I'm proud to support you.
And speaking about that mom and pop, I mean, this is stuff that was talked about in business school when I was in college, was how the Walmarts, the Targets, Costco's, Sam's Clubs are coming into those small areas, which some of you might have even remembered this, where you would have all the mom and pop shops that you would go to. There would be like a specific, remember Ace Hardware? I don't know if you guys have Ace Hardware where you're at, but these hardware stores where they're not ran by a company or a franchise. They were just, it'd be like Robert's Hardware. And I would be the running it with my wife and kids or whatever. And then you'd go buy your products over there. Well, now that Walmart has come in, not only did it take out Ace Hardware, it took out your grocery store that was ran by your local guy, maybe your pastor, hell, for all I know. It took out the auto industry there as well that was ran by mom and pop. Maybe your dad was a service mechanic or an auto mechanic. That wiped that out now because Costco does mechanic work. I don't know if Walmart does. I'm sure they do that in some way, shape, or form. But it just completely destroyed Main Street for the sake of Wall Street. And I think there needs to be a conversation of, is that one fair competition? I mean, I suppose, where you're driving out and removing a lot of those small business owners from having a business by just allowing a Walmart to come in. Now, people are happy with Walmart because it's cheaper goods, but is cheaper goods always what's best for the country as a whole? Now, that's for a broader and more important conversation later on. We also have Pete Hegseth, who we absolutely love here, talking about how he inherited not just a demoralized military that couldn't recruit, but also a military that was being shaved down by not just the Obama administration way back when, from starting in 2008 when he was closing down military bases and wanting to chisel away at the U.S. military, but also Joey was doing the same shenanigans. And because he was having a bunch of shapeshifters running his military, nobody wanted to get behind that. I wouldn't want to sign up and serve my country knowing that a dude in a lady's dress wearing his alleged wife's panties telling me what to do. Not an exactly person I want to get behind. So here's Pete talking about the recruitment and just kind of what he's kind of seen here in the last 100 days.
Go ahead, Pete.
Well, Mr. President, I think we're controversial because we're over the target. And like so many things, Mr. President, you inherited a demoralized military that couldn't recruit, that was perceived as weak after what happened in Afghanistan and elsewhere because of Joe Biden. And what we have seen since your election and the inauguration has been nothing short of a recruiting renaissance. Decades, it hasn't been decades since we've seen this kind of recruiting in the Army, the Navy, the Marine Corps, the Air Force. The men and women of America want to join the United States military led by President Donald Trump.
And the police, by the way.
Absolutely.
And fire. I always mention the fire, but the police and fire. But the police and fire likewise they have waiting lists now. And 6 months ago was a disaster.
Truly historic. We can barely absorb the volume and retention as well. Men and women in the military who don't want to get out now that they have a real commander-in-chief. We're reinforcing standards. We're going to be fit, not fat, in our formations. We're welcome back all the folks that were forced out because of the COVID mandate. We've ripped wokeness out of the military, sir, DEI, trans, and it's Fort Benning and Fort Bragg again at the DOD. We're rebuilding the military, sir. The Golden Dome is well underway. F-47, reassuring allies and deterring enemies. We found nearly $6 billion in DOGE savings that we're going to reinvest, including $50 billion from the Biden administration focused on things like climate.
Did you all hear that? We found $6 billion of waste or fraud, whatever you want to call it. And now we can actually reinvest that money that was already budgeted that you were going to waste on some bogus shape-shifting operation, climate change, or something bogus that's a woke idea. And now we can actually reinvest it, maybe build a ship, maybe get our guys new gear, maybe revamp some of these military bases. I love that dude just said that. And by that dude, I'm talking about the Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth. Thank you, sir, for taking care of the American people and our troops.
That have nothing to do with lethality and warfighting. And we will have, as you said, sir, the first $1 trillion budget that we plan to spend wisely on behalf of our warfighters. From day one, sir, we've helped get 100% operational control of the border, coming alongside DHS and CBP. Right. We've got 11,000 troops on the border who now, because of the new national defense area, sir, can help detain illegals at the border and hand them over to CBP. It used to be if you saw camouflage on the border, they could hold binoculars, and that's it. Now we can detain and assist, and we're going to get 100% operational control of that border. Our NATO allies know they have to step up. The Houthis in the Middle East are feeling the weight of American power, and we're deterring communist China. So because of your leadership, sir, I believe we're making the military great again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pete's killing it, man. The two guys to the left and right of Donald Trump, Pete Hegseth and Marco Rubio, are just doing a phenomenal job of revamping things. All these guys, I mean, Trump, honestly, I suppose he actually has to run his administration like this. He doesn't really have a choice. The way he's running his administration is just allowing his cabinet members to go off and do what they need to do. And in some cases, I'd imagine not even really keeping Trump in the loop all that much. I'm sure that they do. Obviously, through their cabinet meetings, that's one of the purposes. Hey, Mr. President, this is what I'm doing. This is what we are doing. This is how it connects to your agenda, and then going out and getting it done. Now, one way I know that Trump is doing this, that he's just allowing people to go off and do their jobs, is because we covered the article early on where he said, I put them in place. They need to go out and just do their job. That's how Reagan actually ran his administration. Was he allowed them to do more of managerial roles and go out and manage on behalf of him. Now, it did bite Reagan in the tushy, I will be honest. There's a great book by Lou Cannon that's all about Ronald Reagan. Extremely detailed book, like almost too detailed, where you're going into and getting the exact transcripts of the conversations that they have. It's about 1,700 pages book. It's like, it's a thick boy. It's a thickie. But it's a good book. Again, that's by Lou Cannon. It's a book on Ronald Reagan. And so his cabinet members are going out and they're just working. They're getting things done. And here's Sean Duffy talking about if you don't follow the law, if you are giving licenses to illegals, if you are having DEI policies, we're not going to fund your projects. And I love this, putting the foot down and laying down the law. So Sean Duffy's daughter is with his wife's on Fox and Friends, I believe. And then Avita Duffy is with Dan Bongino's crew. And this is killing me here.
We are going to rewrite those standards, bring it down to something that's far more reasonable. Elon's fine with that, I hope. But it's going to drive down. It's going to drive down the price of a car in America, making cars more affordable for families. Also, Biden had the social cost of credit when we build infrastructure, roads, and bridges, adding 3 to 5% on infrastructure costs. We've gotten rid of the social cost of carbon, driving down the cost to build roads and bridges across the country.
Common sense.
We have what is called follow the law. So we have so many states and municipalities that don't follow the law. So whether it's DEI, discriminating against Americans, whether they give illegals driver's license, or they're sanctuary cities or states, if you don't follow the law, if you're giving license to illegals, if you're having DEI policies, we're not going to fund your projects. So you got to certify in your state or in your city to get road and bridge money or rail money that you're actually following the law, which includes the executive orders from you, Mr. President. We're cutting back funding. We send research money, Mr. President, to universities to do research on more equitable and sustainable transportation systems. Projects that'll use data and public opinion to inform policy and infrastructure and technology benefiting diverse communities, including...
So this goes on for quite some time. That's about a 5-minute clip there of Sean Duffy talking. All great stuff, by the way. But what I would like to get to is they go around the table, folks. It was a long cabinet meeting. And maybe we can listen to that either on tonight's Dark MAGA podcast and get through kind of everybody, because there's so much going on. I can't possibly cover it in an hour without also missing out on current news as well. This is yesterday's news, yesterday evening's news. There's just, God, the guy's killing it, man. He's really cooking, you guys. And it's tough to make sure that we get everybody in the mix here. So they go all the way around the table. The one person I want to shout out here is Elon Musk, who's obviously a fan favorite, talking at the table as well.
Borders, safe cities, and sensible spending. And that's what they've gotten. A tremendous amount has been accomplished in the first 100 days. As everyone has said, it's more than has been accomplished in any administration before, ever, period. This portends very well for what will happen for the rest of the administration. I think this could be the greatest administration since the founding of the country.
Wow.
Well, we all want to thank you for your help. You really have sacrificed a lot been treated very unfairly.
Well, they do like to burn my cars, which is not great. You know, could be better.
But you have been treated unfairly. But the vast majority of people in this country really respect and appreciate you, and this whole room can say that very strongly. You've really been a tremendous help. You opened up a lot of eyes as to what could be done, and we just want to thank you very much. And you know, you're invited to stay as long as you want. At some point, I guess he wants to get back home to his cars and his.
I mean, the guy has sacrificed a lot, man. And now there was rumors out there that it were swirling, and this kind of made Tesla stock take a hit yesterday. I guess Tesla's trying to find a new CEO, kind of driving out Elon Musk, trying to find a successor. So I don't know what's going with that. I don't know if that's Elon Musk's decision. It sounds like that's the board's decision. So we will keep you updated on what's going on with Tesla. I wanted to bring this to all of your attention. I don't know if you guys follow me on X, or also known as Twitter, but I like to post things throughout the day. So make sure you're following me over there, because I give you guys things that I find interesting. Maybe you'll find interesting too. So this was the other day. This is on the 29th from the Department of Government Efficiency. Last week, Treasury went live with its first automated payment verification. You're like, Brad, automated payments been around for decades, for a long time. I know our stuff is archaic and out of date. Finally, we have DOGE coming in and helping them revamp this. So now we have an automated payment verification system. You have to put in the codes. You don't just get free money. This is what we were allowing to happen, man. We were paying for people's lifestyles. I'm telling you, there's so much fraud that was taking place. It's head spinning. People need to start going to prison and jail for this stuff. They stole our money. So now they said $334 million. This is just last week. Okay. You are talking about saving billions of dollars in the course of 1 year doing this, right? You could just do 334 million times 52, because there's 52 weeks in a year. And by the way, another, next week could be $600 million of improper payment requests. So we could have saved, in the span of 2 weeks, almost $1 billion. Billion with a B. 334 million in improper payment requests were identified and rejected due to missing budget codes. Oh, because these idiots were so used to not putting in anything and just taking our money for so many years that it's almost like they don't have to think about it. Just, oh, fuck it, I'm not gonna put in a code. Look at invalid budget codes, i.e. the payment was not linked to the budget whatsoever, because they wanted us to pay for their sushi probably, or their Ubers, or their takeout. Budget codes with no authorization, the code had already been fully spent. Well, let's spend some more. No, that's the big deal. So this also has the Treasury Access Symbol, TAS, is an identification code linking a Treasury payment to a budget line item. God forbid that our government has to be accountable for actually tracking and tracing their payments and not just being given money and free checks willy-nilly. Remember, I was an accountant before. That doesn't mean I know everything. Matter of fact, a lot of my accounting knowledge has left me because I quit accounting in 2015. This is basic management of your funds. This is basic bookkeeping. Let's keep it at that. This is as basic as it gets. Making sure you have a code or some sort of signifier of what was being spent, where it's going. And that's how you track. By the way, this is how people audit. This is why your government failed their audits, because how the hell do you pass an audit when you're not able to track where the money's going? Hey, can you show me where this is at? Nope. In the federal government, the TAS field was optional for, listen closely. If you're on audio, listen closely to this number. I want you to pull over. I want you, if you're at work, just be careful with the number I'm about to tell you, because you're going to fall over in your chair. And now you might have workers' comp violation on your hands. In the federal government, that code field, that TAS field, that identification field was optional for approximately $4.6 $1.7 trillion, trillion with a T, in payments, and was often left blank, making traceability almost impossible. As of Saturday, this is now a required field, increasing insight into where our money's actually going. These people are corrupt. I'm being as serious as I can. Start throwing people into jail and prisons for this crap. I am so tired of it. And you want to know why I'm being harsh on it? Because if you're not harsh on it, people are just going to continue to do it because it's a slap on the wrist. When you're not harsh on something, you're going to get the same thing that you're not harsh on. So there's that with Elon Musk and DOGE. The guy has given up a lot, man. And he's doing a fabulous job. Okay, I don't like everything that he does and says. Same thing, I don't like everything that anybody ever says and does. But Elon Musk is sacrificing a lot, maybe even sacrificed Tesla. You know, Tesla almost went bankrupt, gone, like 3-4 times. Very well could happen again here. Furthermore, you have RFK. I do want to highlight this. I wanted to get some of the media's questions, but I do want to highlight RFK because he's all ramped up right now with Donald Trump's courage to make America healthy again. I mean, he is. I don't think he actually believed Donald Trump, where Trump was like, do whatever you want, Robert, Bobby, who I used to call your father, Bobby. Bobby is a good man. Do whatever you want. I don't think he actually believed him. And Trump's, I'm hearing, this is behind the scenes stuff. I'm hearing Trump is in the F it stage. Trump, it's a second term. He's in the F it stage. Do whatever you want. Just make it legal and do what you think is right. And I don't think Bobby actually believed him. Check this out.
Thank you for your courage. You are a business-friendly president, probably the most business-friendly in our history, but you're also willing to stand up to very, very powerful businesses, and you've shown that again and again. Secretary Rollins had the soda industry come and knock on her door very much, very loudly, and they said to her, well, the SNAP program is not supposed to be about nutrition. She pointed out to them that there is no nutrition in a soda. And they said, well, it's not supposed to be about nutrition. And she said to them, the name of the program is supplemental nutrition. It is about nutrition. And we should, you know, we have 38% of our kids are diabetic or pre-diabetic, and we are paying at both ends. We're paying for the food-like substances that make them diabetic, and then we're being bankrupt. We're spending $1 trillion a year on metabolic dysfunction. It's existential and it's not sustainable.
So he's amped, talking about how Donald Trump has courage, and he's just excited. So he's making America healthy again, which, look, that is needed. That is big time needed. Let's get into more of news here from reporters. Let me kind of scroll here. I got a ton of videos, you guys. More than you know. Here is Bill. Is it Melugin? I always mispronounce his name, but here he is saying, if Fox were to send me down to the border right now, I'd have trouble finding just a single migrant. This is echoed by Caroline Leavitt yesterday during yesterday's White House press briefing, which is why I'm going to link the two. This was echoed during the press briefing that was specifically for new media, which are influencers. This would be, if I was to be invited, this would basically be the room that I would potentially be invited to. Now, I did get a phone call yesterday. I don't know who it was. I didn't leave a voicemail, but it was an interesting number. So we'll have to hash that out. Now, was it the White House? I don't think so, but it could have been. We'll see. Here's Bill Milligan.
I mean, after spending years down there to see the numbers the way they are now, I knew they were going to go low. Never could I imagine this low. Where VP Vance was in Eagle Pass the other day, December 2023, when things were at their all-time worst, you were getting like 3,000 to 4,000 crossings there a day. There were just 14 there the other day. Yeah. If Fox were to send me down there right now, I'd have trouble finding a single migrant on camera. Completely different than what we're used to. So, I mean, after spending...
Now, this clip that I just showed you was from a while ago. That was from like back in March, and I think that was even regurgitated. I think it was regurgitated from something that was even prior to that. So here is Caroline Leavitt actually talking about the Trump effect and how he's securing our borders. This is what America voted for. This is what America wanted, and he actually is carrying out his promises. Now, every promise, no. There's always some knucklehead. Look, I love you guys, but, and you know, sometimes these people are followers of the Bald Brad Show, which I greatly appreciate. Doesn't mean I don't get to slap you upside the head, just in the same way you have free reign to slap me upside my head. Well, what about the Epstein list? What about the JFK files? He's not keeping his promises. It's been 100 days. Say that crap when he's done. He didn't keep every single promise. Did he keep the big ones? Absolutely, he's keeping the big ones right now. You are right. The Epstein stuff, that's fair game. I will admit it. I'm not going to be beholden to Donald Trump and everything that he does and says. Give it time. I would love the Epstein lift just as much as you do. And by the way, that's Pam Bondi and that's Kash Patel. We could slap them upside the head on social media all we want. Get the Epstein list out. I agree. But the promises, he's working through them. Let me tell you, the guy's working through them.
The first 100 days of President Trump's second term can only be summed up as promises made, promises kept. He has ushered in the most secure border in modern American history, and he didn't need a bill from Congress to do it. Do you all remember that? They said we needed a bill. We didn't need a bill. We just needed a new president. The border is now closed, and the Biden border invasion has been halted. Illegal border encounters are down by 95%. Illegal alien gotaways, one of the top threats to our public safety, are down by an astounding 99.99%. And Fox News' Bill Malugin, who did exceptional reporting covering the Biden border crisis, was recently quoted saying, "If Fox were to send me down there right now, I would have trouble finding a single migrant on camera." That is the Trump effect. The first one.
And the Trump effect outflows everywhere regarding that. So we also have this in the news where Governor Andy Beshear, Donald Trump's FEMA, is doing a very good job in Kentucky responding to natural disasters. This is a huge deal because Joey sucked at natural disasters where FEMA was not willing to support, help, however you want to refer it, Trump supporters. Y'all remember that? How they would skip the houses of those with advertising Trump Vance signs? Well, Trump's taking care of FEMA, revamping it, and now Andy Beshear, a Democrat, saying, look, Trump's doing a great job in Kentucky. I can't complain.
I will say that Donald Trump's FEMA is doing a very good job in Kentucky responding to natural disasters. He has okayed individual assistance to our families in 2 separate natural disasters, and for that, we're grateful. I will say that.
There you go. It's such, I have a feeling we're just going to keep saying this. There is such a black and white difference between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Donald Trump's getting things done. Joe Biden didn't get anything done. And the things that he did get done, he just made worse here in the United States. You also have Kevin, the NEC director, Kevin Hessett, he says POTUS doesn't get enough credit for how informed he is on policy. There is truth. Remember, this is also echoing the idea that ABC, NBC, and CBS, there was a study that was done recently that found in the first 100 days of Trump's presidency, 92%, it might have been 97%, somewhere in that, it's either 92 or 97, I can't remember which number, it's one of those two numbers, of negative coverage of this guy. The 3 outlets over the course of 100 days, those 3 outlets, which are legacy media, only said 143 remotely positive things about Trump. Think about how much coverage that is 24/7 for 100 days straight over the course of 3 outlets. You could only say 143 things that may have been positive. Everything else was negative. So I think he's right. I think there's just not enough credit for Donald Trump in general. The guy's a billionaire. He's looked at contracts his entire life. The Democrats used to love him. There's clips of him being smoochy and kissy with the ladies of The View, but all of a sudden he's a dum-dum. So he was a genius before, but all of a sudden, I don't know, he got kicked in the head like Joey and is a dum-dum. Doesn't make sense to me. Here we go.
Enough credit for how much into the weeds he is on policy and how much he really cares about it. And look back at when he was speaking to the joint session of Congress, Larry. He said something that a lot of people didn't notice that were watching the speech, but a lot of businesses did. He said, these tax cuts will be retroactive.
Right.
Do you remember that?
Right.
He said these will be retroactive. Yes. And then all of a sudden in February and in March, we had an unprecedented capital spending boom.
Yes.
Equipment investment went up 20%. Overall business fixed investment went up 10%. I mean, it was an astonishing moment, I believe, in the history of presidential economic rhetoric, because he went into the weeds in a way nobody I've ever seen has ever said something about retroactivity in a State of the Union address, but he did it because he understood that we've got to make people know, don't wait until we pass these things. We're going to pass them, and when we pass them, things are going to take off. And then all of a sudden, after the worst January you've ever seen, we saw February and a March that's for the record books.
Yeah. There's definitely some truth to it, but I think we're all smart enough, all of us together as a community, as a group, we can see when the Trump officials, the Trump administration is glossing Trump, right? You can see when they're exaggerating things and that's the best way I can explain it. They're kind of going over the top with Trump. And Trump loves that stuff. They know he eats it up, and that's their boss, and you want to do what's best for your boss and shine some light on him. So I get why they do it, but there's that. Furthermore, there's also Ambassador Greer, which maybe many of you have not heard of. I believe he's the ambassador to potentially Korea, but Greer is about responding to decades of unfairness and have resulted in a massive trade deficit. A lot of jobs, the manufacturing jobs we have in Middle America and elsewhere, they've gone overseas. The trade policy is about righting that. Now, this policy is going to take time to work through. You're trying to do decades of chiseling away at our manufacturing, our production here, and offshoring it to China, South Korea, Vietnam, India, all in the span of 6 months here. That's crazy. You're trying to fix things that took decades to destroy in a matter of 6 months. That could lead to mistakes in the same way. Let's correlate this. There's going to be mistakes in deportations. When you're trying to deport millions of people, what the mainstream media is going to do, and is doing, by the way, is they're pinpointing that one small little error that you made and go, look at what he did there. Look at that. Oh, look what he did. They're not going to pinpoint their own errors. They're not going to look in the mirror and go, oh, yeah, well, look, we messed up on this article. We messed up on that article, this article. No. No. They're looking at Trump under a magnifying glass. So the camel that's standing in front of them is the deportations. The gnats that are flying around the camel, those are the minuscule errors. Are errors big? Absolutely. But that's what they're doing. So here we go.
You describe it, what this policy really is about.
Well, it's about responding to decades of unfairness that have resulted in a massive trade deficit, both in manufactured goods and even now in agriculture, which we never had before. Over the past 2 years, we've had a deficit in agriculture. By having incredibly open markets in the United States and relatively closed markets overseas, it's very natural that we've had a trade deficit grow. And unfortunately, it's had a big impact on our working class. A lot of those jobs, the manufacturing jobs we have in Middle America and elsewhere, they've gone overseas. And the trade policy is about righting that and changing the system and frankly, working with other countries to see if they want to go along with us to have more balanced or reciprocal trade.
And I wouldn't see why they would not, especially our allies. If you're our allies, wouldn't you want to negotiate with them and see what's best for both sides and come to some sort of agreement on fair trade? But as I've mentioned, I plug this book a lot, and I really wish a lot of you would maybe check it out because I think it's very informative. Is Nikki Haley's book. Now, I understand a lot of people don't like Nikki Haley because of what she said about Donald Trump on the campaign trail. We all know how campaign trails work. Everybody says crap about everybody, whether they mean it or not mean it. So I usually give people a pass on the campaign trails. She has a great book, and I think it's called With All Due Respect, I think. It's when she was the UN ambassador under Donald Trump's first administration. And she's going to give you a glimpse on how these countries talk about us, how they treat us behind closed doors, how they talk about us out there in the public. And I think it's going to change your perception, by the way, in a negative way, to our allies like South Korea, like Japan, like the United Kingdom. I think it's going to change your perception about that. And it did for me. It did for me. What I'm talking about is two-faced. What we see is, oh, they're our allies. Oh, if we go to war, they're going to take care of us. I've said this time and time again. You just saw Andy Beshear, Democrat from Kentucky, talking about how FEMA and Donald Trump is getting things done. Where are all the other countries at? Where are they sending us billions of dollars for when we have natural disasters like we saw in Florida, like we saw in North and South Carolina, like we always see on the East Coast, like what happened in Los Angeles? And at the time I said, where are all the planes with the Chinese flag or the South Korean flag or whoever, English flags, Australian flags? Where's all the money pouring in that we gave billions of dollars to for decades? They're not going to be there for us. We're by ourselves. We're by ourselves and have been. That's why I don't give two bleeps what Canada has to say. I don't care what the English have to say. I don't care what the anybody, the Australians, I don't care, because whenever we're in a time of need, it's always, don't worry, they're a rich country, they'll take care of themselves. No, how about you start sending people here? How about you start helping out? By sending people here, I mean helping out in that regard. And shout out to Mexico, by the way. Mexico actually sent helicopters and people to figure out the fires here in LA. Now, I think they did that because there's a lot of Mexicans here. They have a lot of family members, but that's here nor there. You also have this here where you have, I don't know if this was and it was an interview with Donald Trump, but they had, oh God, I can't remember his name now. Bill O'Reilly. They had Bill O'Reilly here on the phone with Donald Trump. And I guess POTUS is having his conversations with Zelensky. And he said that he was telling him that it's a very good thing if we can produce a deal and you sign it, because Russia is much bigger and much stronger, which is just Trump stating the obvious.
What were you and Zelensky talking about when you were nose to nose in the Vatican?
I was telling him that it's a very good thing if we can produce a deal that you sign it, because Russia is much bigger and much stronger. Russia is just chugging forward. It's a big, strong country. By the way, not nearly as strong as the United States, because I rebuilt our military in my first term. They gave a lot of it away in Afghanistan, and Afghanistan is one of the reasons we had an incompetent president, grossly incompetent. He should have never been president. But we had a man that didn't know what the hell he was doing in Afghanistan, showed the stupidity of our leader. Yeah.
And that's something that's never highlighted all that much, is the stupidity of Joe Biden giving billions of dollars and equipment, by the way, to our enemies that we fought for like 20 years. It's so head spinning to me. Democrats will never, you don't hear peeps from anything. It's all about Donald Trump right now. There's no look in the mirror. There's no looking back going, oh man, yeah, Joey did that stupid thing. Yeah, it's pretty bad, where we got 13 service members blown to bits, turned to mist in Abbygate. If you haven't seen the guy that talked about it, that was actually at Abbygate, one of the guys that got blown up but survived, he talks all about the crazy crap that Joe Biden let happen there on his Sean Ryan podcast. Crazy. And I think we even actually covered that. It might be in my video catalog. Let's look at this. There's Chris Cuomo talking about entitlements here with Donald Trump.
Commitment for the American people in terms of how much you will protect those programs.
We're not doing anything.
See if we can get this going.
Anything with entitlements. And if you look at Social Security, and by the way, I think I'm better to say this than anybody, because I did nothing with entitlements that would hurt people for 4 years. I could have done that. If I was going to do that, I would have done it 5 years ago, 6 years ago, or 7 years ago. I'm not doing anything. The only thing is, you say don't talk about waste, fraud, and abuse. There is a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse. There are a lot of illegal aliens that are getting Medicaid that shouldn't be getting it. And nobody objects to taking people off Medicaid that aren't allowed to be there. But we are doing absolutely nothing to hurt Medicare, Medicaid, or Social Security. Nothing at all.
But for some reason, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's intentional or unintentional. I'm leaning towards intentional, that the mainstream media and the Democrat Party are going to continue to lie on how Donald Trump is destroying Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, when the only thing he's touching is trying to see who is stealing our money and fraud, which you saw. There's a lot of people that should be dead right now that would be the longest living people that have ever existed, other than the people in the Bible, taking our Social Security. And I want to find out who those people are, and I want them in prison. I want them gone. I want them in jail. In jail. Well, we have a lot of news still to cover, folks. I didn't even scratch the surface of the news. And that's kind of where we're running into with the Trump administration, is I have so much stuff to cover. I can't do it in an hour-long morning show. So again, in about a month, listen carefully, please, everybody. In about a month, I'd say 5 weeks, 4 to 5 weeks, the show, once I hit summer in June, we're going to a 2 to 3 hour morning podcast. I just want to be clear on that. In starting June, and it's okay if you can't join me for the entire time, but I just want to let you know where we're going. Over summer, our podcasts are going to be 2-3 hours long, maybe even longer, however long it takes to get through the news. That's what we're going to do because we have time to do it. Here, you guys know I work multiple jobs. This is not a job to me. This is a hobby. This is a fun way I get to hang out with you fine, great people. So I just want to be clear on that. We do have Dark MAGA premium member only tonight, where you want to join me on this one. Oh boy. You do want to join premium if you can, because we are going to have Stephen Miller White House press briefing today. Now you might say, well, Brad, I love Stephen Miller. I know. Oh boy. I can't wait. We are going to have a freaking awesome time. Would love for you to join over at Rumble. Would greatly appreciate that. The fascism is strong in you, Wolverine. Well, Wolverine, I appreciate that. Thank you for saying the fascism is strong in me. Appreciate that. Let's try to find somebody to raid really quick on Rumble. If you're not over on Rumble, please go over and head over there, because we're going to give some people some shout outs here. And head over to Rumble so that we can join somebody and raid them really quickly. We'll be back here later today again at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for our Dark MAGA podcast. Would love for you to join us. Dark MAGA is just different, man. We went over 3 hours on Tuesday for Dark MAGA. The Lord only knows how long we're going to go today, but we will have to see. We will have to see. So, looks like there's a guy named Mike. Let's send you to Mike. I don't know who this is, but looks like he has a good amount of people over there. So why don't we raid him? So plug the podcast over at Mike's show for us if you can, folks. Patriots, thank you so much. We'll be back later today. If not, we'll see you tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Here we go. We'll confirm the raid. We're coming in, Mike. We're coming in. All right, folks, we're out.